full analysis, but back now to energy independence and our match game. One of the greatest challenges, no matter who's in the White House, is America's lack of energy independence and our gross energy inefficiency. So, today, we're excited to unveil the Defense Energy Project here in Austin, Texas. Two simple, powerful goals with this product. Number one, create a jobs program that helps veterans returning from wars fought over foreign oil such that they can get work in America creating clean energy and energy efficiency and independence. That's what it is. More on that later in the show. The second component of the Defense Energy Project is this: expose the true cost of hydrocarbons, including the cost of the wars that we fight and the environmental toll, in order to restore the necessary price integrity to our so-called free markets, with the discussion of a plan called fee and dividend. In short, fossil fuel producing companies would pay a fee, which would be pooled into a national fund that would be then directly distributed equally to each of us 311 million Americans. We would effectively be taxing energy waste and rewarding with a dividend energy efficiency. And joining us now to learn a little more about all this are Dr. James Hansen from NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies, an advocate of that program I was just describing, and Brian Merchant, who is a contributing editor for Tree Hugger and has really been taking the lead on advocating a broader understanding of the issue of the breach in price integrity. And before we get to Dr. Hansen, Brian, explain to us your understanding of why the breach of price integrity and the real cost of our fuel sources is such a problem.
Well, most Americans have no idea just how rigged the market is in favor of fossil fuels, right? So it's no secret that we dump, tens of billions of dollars directly into the pockets of big oil every year in the form of direct
subsidies. Okay.
Subsidies, tax breaks, direct from our pockets to theirs.
Sure.
That's theirs. But that's a small fraction of the cost, even though it amounts to billions of dollars and has totaled as many as $500 billion over the last 50 years or so. The real costs are the indirect ones that I know that you've illuminated in your work too. In other words, the U.S. military pays. The oil industry can't operate without the U.S. military providing a security presence in volatile regions.
$7.3 trillion just for aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf over the past couple of decades.
Right, and that's not a cost that a lot of people recognize that the American taxpayer is footing the bill for. That the oil company gets a huge deal. They get to use that as their own personal security detail. But that's a huge cost for American taxpayers.
So, Dr. Hansen, as we come to better understand that the free market can only function if there's actual integrity in the prices, if we actually man up, if you will, and deal with the actual cost of the energy sources that we're choosing, how is it that the proposal that you have been discussing and are introducing effectively more broadly now to restore price integrity works? How do we fix this problem?
Let me first say that I'm speaking as a private citizen, not representing the government, even though I'm a NASA employee. And also, let me point out that there are other costs to fossil fuels. The human health damage from air and water pollution from fossil fuels is huge. It's in the hundreds of billions of dollars per year. And in addition, there's the cost of climate change, which is going to be borne mainly by our children and grandchildren, but climate is already beginning to change. But the way we should deal with this is by putting a price on the fossil fuel emissions, by collecting a flat fee across the board on oil, gas, and coal at the source, at the domestic mine or the port of entry. And that money should then be distributed uniformly to legal residents of the country. I would give 1 share to each legal adult resident of the country and half a share to children, up to 2 per family. If you did that, then more than 60% of the people would get more in their dividend than they would pay in increased energy prices. And those people who pay special attention, trying to minimize their fossil fuel use, using clean energies, energy efficiency, they would do very well.
Brian, if we are able to restore hydrocarbon price integrity or move in that direction, is it even possible to anticipate the rate of adaptation and the effect that it would have on our rate of transition to both more efficient fossil fuel use and alternative use?
You know, it would be amazing. I mean, the advantages that the fossil fuel industry gets are enormous. They're enormous, and you know, when politicians complain about a little tiny subsidy for a solar company, they're not seeing the whole picture. What if there is even a modicum of price integrity restored to this scenario? We would see American innovation unleashed. We would see clean tech solutions. We would see a whole new pouring of funding into a new sector. This would be a job creator. This would unleash American innovation. This would do kind of all of the things that need to happen in this sector so that America can get a foot forward.
Dr. Hansen, the obvious political resistance to an idea like this would come from the coal companies, the natural gas companies, and the oil companies. We all know that they're very effective with our government. Is there anything in addition to the stick that you create for them with this tax that says, listen, burn less, be more efficient, or that you're going to have to pay? Is there any way you can create a carrot for that 5 or 10% of our population that really is going to bear a disproportionate portion of this tax? Is there a way to create an incentive for those that would? You see the rewards. We would get the dividends. 60% of us would get more money. We would burn less energy. But how do you mitigate the most acute political resistance from the biggest payer?
Well, the incentive is for everybody. And let me give a quantitative example to the question you had just asked. If we put a fee that we collected at a rate of $15 a ton of carbon dioxide the first year and increasing $10 a ton each year, at the end of 10 years, that would be $115 a ton, and the amount collected would be close to $600 billion a year. If you distribute that among the legal residents, it would be between $2,000 and $3,000 per legal residence. So a family with 2 or more children would get between $6,000 and $9,000. They would get it monthly, electronically to their bank account, or if they don't have one, to their debit card. And this would reduce our fossil fuel dependence 30% in 10 years. That's been run through economic models. And that reduction is equivalent to more than 10 times the amount of oil that would be carried by the Keystone XL pipeline. So we wouldn't need that pipeline. We would be using...
So Dr. Hansen, I need you to repeat what you just said because it was very significant. People like to think about the costs. I want you to repeat what you just said about the fuel savings and the comparative analysis of the fuel savings of a proposal like this relative to what we're currently debating. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
it's huge.
What you just said was very significant.
Yeah, the Carbon Tax Center in Washington has run this through economic models and finds that it would reduce our fuel use by 30% in 10 years. So it's a huge, and that's, as I say, that's 10 times more than the Keystone XL pipeline would carry. And it would make our industry more competitive. That's what we need to do. In order for the economy to work most efficiently, you need to have the true costs for the fuels that are being used. You don't want to subsidize them because all of those subsidies are coming out of the taxpayers' pockets.
Yeah. Dr. Hansen, you have, again, your exertion of rational thought is remarkably admired, and if I could send it through signal, transfer it to the brains of our policymakers, I would magically do so. If nothing else, it's an honor to be able to give you a louder voice. Brian, the same is true. Tremendous work with Tree Hugger in your reporting. We both know, all of us, that this is a beginning of this conversation, not an end. Once you understand the breach of price integrity, then you can begin the conversation about the most intelligent ways to restore that integrity that is the most respectful to our incumbent business and at the same time gets us where we need to go. Be sure to check out Brian Merchant's incredible blog up right now at treehugger.com as well as dylanradigan.com. Look for more on this in the months to come.